So today we're going to be hearing from Rebecca O'Donnell, who, as everybody knows, is the chairperson of National TAG, Alison Wood, who's our head of finance, and we're going to also hear from Andrea Wood, who is the chief executive key, but also since Jim Kearns left and moved to another job, Andrea has taken over as being the secretary to the board as well, so she's wearing two hats today. So in which case, can I now ask Andrea to give us any apologies for today's meeting in her role as secretary?
I can indeed, thanks John. So we've received apologies from 32 members, 28 of whom have appointed proxies to represent them today. So if we combine the wonderful number of members who have managed to join us virtually with the number of proxy nominations, we have exceeded the number that we need for a quorum, which is 27 members for today's meeting. Now, we'll record all details of the apologies and the proxies in the minute of the meeting, and we'll post those later. Okay, back over to you, John. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. So now I think it's time for me to give you my annual report. So here goes. At yet another virtual annual general meeting. I think we're beginning to all get quite good at this stuff. But I have to tell you, I really cannot wait to get back to having proper meetings with you lot. This year, of course, has still been overshadowed by the pandemic, which has continued to bring so many difficulties and challenges to our everyday lives. The challenges key and community lifestyles have faced have really never been greater, and yet the responses of the people we support, their families and our staff have been really outstanding. So first and foremost, I would like to thank everyone for their incredible efforts, which have helped us to weather the past year. I'm both proud and inspired by the way in which people have risen to the many challenges with kindness, compassion and creativity, and by their resilience as we continue to deal with the uncertainties of the future. I've no doubt that there will still be some difficult days ahead, but I am also sure that if we continue to work together and support each other, we will find a way through this all. Despite the pandemic, people's lives have continued to grow, and the uplifting stories featured in our annual review very much reflect that and highlight that even in the most difficult of times, there is humour, joy, purpose, fun and friendship to be found. And as you can see, and I think with a bit of luck, we're going to get a picture of the front cover. Yep, as you can see, we've chosen a brilliant front cover for our review featuring the Wallace Monument, which is, I'm sure everybody knows, but for those that don't, it's in, I think, Stirling. A fantastic work by Martin Sloss, who is a regular at the project Ability Workshops. And as always, we are really grateful to them and Martin for their permission to use this wonderful painting. It really is good. It's like it's got rainbows in it and everything, isn't it? This year's review demonstrates how we've learned to develop our digital skills, featuring our online awards ceremony to celebrate our workforce's achievements through gaining either a Scottish vocational or a professional development qualification, and showing how the people we support have engaged with technology with support from Connecting Scotland. But the main focus of this year's review is the many stories from all over Scotland about how people across key and community lifestyles have been keeping themselves active, engaged and connected during the pandemic. You're going to hear about the friendships and relationships that have been flourishing in Highland and how determined Lisa and Ewan were to get married despite the difficulties presented by the pandemic. We also reached 30 years of providing support in Golspie and celebrated the long-standing connections that people have built in that small Highland community. Across Scotland, people took up baking, crafting, and activities such as cycling, walking, and even paddleboarding. For Sean in Glasgow, lockdown was an opportunity to gain some qualifications with the Open University, and Lynn became a dog owner to Daisy, who has become the perfect companion. And you'll hear about how people have also been looking out for each other and others in their community, often being good neighbours and sharing time and support, or taking part in fundraising, like the people we support in Dunoon, who raised money for the local hospice by taking part in the Kilt Walk together. Supporting all of this has been our partnership with TAG, and in her report, Rebecca O'Donnell, TAG's chairperson, talks about the things they have achieved during the pandemic by offering their activities online, which kept people busy and socially connected throughout lockdown. So a huge thanks to Liam and Kirsten, members of TAG and all the community development workers for their outstanding contributions. As the restrictions eased, lots of younger people took their first steps to independent living. In Dumbartonshire and Ayr, we worked in partnership with local housing providers to support people to set up homes, many of them leaving their families for the first time. You'll hear in the review how these young people are all settling into their new lives, building firm friendships and, importantly, having space and time of their own. In fact, during the last year, we developed new support services for 232 people, with a range of needs, including older people in North Lanarkshire who had traditionally received home care services. Instead, they now have self-directed support, and this is leading to much better outcomes for the whole family, who have more control and flexibility over how they use the support. That brings the total number of people Key supports to 1,635 across 16 local authorities. It's like I'm reading out the COVID figures on the news, isn't it? 1,635 people across 16 local authorities, which is a huge achievement, and our grateful thanks to our managers and staff who have worked so hard to continue to respond to requests for support during the pandemic. It has meant so much to families to know they are not alone and can rely on our support even during the most difficult and challenging times. All of the stories in the review reflect the really important things that we do, supporting people to live good lives and be fully included as friends, neighbours and active citizens in their communities. These aspirations have always been at the heart of Key and guide everything we do. And of course, central to that is our skilled, experienced and committed board who have continued to steer Key through the pandemic. I want to thank them all for their tireless work and dedication, as well as to Andrea and her team of senior managers and all the staff across the whole of Key. However, it is with sadness that I tell you that two long-standing members of the board will be stepping down at this AGM. First, Joanna, or Jo as she's really called, but that she gets a Sunday name for some reason, I don't know why, who has given 18 years to Key. With a background in personnel work, she's been a tireless advocate for our workforce, always seeking ways to recognise and celebrate their hard work and achievements throughout the years. Of course, during her time with us, she was also chairperson of Key from 2012 to 2017, during which time she steered us through the process of appointing a new chief executive. And I think in the 4 or 5 years since that happened, we can probably just about say that they made a good decision. Jo's considered and thoughtful approach will be very much missed, but we are delighted that she will be maintaining her involvement with our training review group and as a director for lifestyles. We thank her and wish her well for the future. And we are also saying goodbye to Bill Mooney, who has served an incredible 44 years on the board. Bill was one of the original group of parents who formed Key back in 1977, so that his son and other people with a learning disability could lead full lives at the heart of their local communities, close to family and friends. Over the years, Bill has steadfastly guided the organisation, navigating the different challenges and opportunities with intelligent insight and always a hopeful and positive vision. Throughout all this time, he's worked to the highest personal and professional standards and remained focused on promoting and upholding the rights of disabled people and their families. And that will be his legacy, ensuring that we continue to listen carefully to the people we support and those close to them about what they want now and in the future. We have therefore arrived at the end of an era, and while we feel immense sadness at Bill's retiral, we mark it also by expressing our huge gratitude for his outstanding contribution, and we also wish him all the very best for the future. So that's the end of my report. So I think now it's over to we're now going to be looking at the adoption of the minutes of last year's AGM. So could I ask for somebody who was present at last year's AGM to propose adoption? Anne McGuigan, yeah?
Yep,
Yes.
got Anne, thank you.
Okay,
yes,
thank you, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you.
And do we have a seconder?
Yes, I second that motion.
That's Jack Crombie. Great. Thank you very much indeed for that, Jack.
Oh.
Can I also ask for a member who was present last year to propose the adoption of the minutes of the special general meeting? We had two meetings last time. There was the ordinary meeting, then there was a special one. So could I ask for somebody to propose adoption of the minute of the special general meeting?
Thanks, Joe. That's Joe Pearson.
That's Joanna's final formal. And also somebody to second those?
I second that.
That's Rebecca, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Okay, then the next bit is we have to move on to the adoption of the accounts for the year to the end of March 2021. So I'm now going to ask Alison Wood, who's the head of finance for Key, to tell us all about these. So over to you, Alison.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to present the financial statements for the year ended 31st of March 21. These accounts have been presented in detail to the Audit Committee at the start of August. They were approved and signed at the board meeting on the 25th of August, and they've been signed by the external auditors. So they are presented for adoption this afternoon as a final stage. In terms of the accounts themselves, there haven't been any significant changes to format or accounting treatment from the prior year. These are the financial statements for Key, but also for the group, which includes Community Lifestyles and KHA Developments. So to give you a brief idea of what the accounts contain, firstly, they contain a report from the members of the board incorporating strategic report for the year. They give a lot of information about Key and the group, as well as a summary of what's happened in the year. There is a report from the external auditors, which is effectively confirmation from the auditors that the accounts show a true and fair view of the financial performance for the year. And then most importantly, from my perspective, there are 4 main financial statements, and each of these is presented for the group and then for Key alone. So the first is the statement of comprehensive income, which shows the income and expenditure for the year. The second is the statement of changes in capital and reserves, which show the impact on the reserves of the financial performance. Thirdly, we have the statement of financial position, which shows the assets, liabilities and reserves at the year-end date. And fourthly, the statement of cash flows, which shows how the financial activity in the year has affected the cash position. So there are then various notes to the financial statements which break down some of the numbers from the primary financial statements and give readers a lot more information about what's going on in the year. So starting with the statement of comprehensive income, which, as I said, is a summary of the income and expenditure in the year. Now, the slide summarises the figures for both Key and the group. These figures are a bit different from the figures per our internal management accounts. The big difference is the way we account for pension deficit payments through the statutory accounts. Key makes substantial annual payments towards their pension deficit, but these do not appear through the operating expenditure in the statutory accounts. They just go through the balance sheet. So that's why the figures look a wee bit different. There's also a significant pension adjustment through both Key and the group accounts. At the year-end date, the scheme gives each employer a breakdown of their share of the scheme's assets and liabilities, and any movement from the prior year must be accounted for. There was a positive adjustment last year, but this year there is a negative adjustment reflecting an increased net pension liability at the year-end date. But in overall terms, reflecting the growth in the year and other changes, Key's income has increased by 7% from last year and operating expenditure by 6%. For the group, income has increased by 8% and expenditure by 7%. Now, there is no doubt that the COVID pandemic has had a significant impact on the financial performance for the year. On the support side, there was changes to the amount of support being provided throughout the year due to services which were suspended or reduced. And COVID has a significant impact on our staffing costs. There was an increased worker absence, both due to short-term absence and longer-term absences, which resulted in additional salary expenditure. We also had significant expenditure on PPE to keep staff and the people we support safe. The income for the year was affected by changes to local authority funding. Under normal circumstances, our funding is based on spot purchasing, where we are only funded for the actual support that we're delivering. But that would not have been appropriate given the complexities of the year. And as such, funding received in the year was a mix of commission support levels, actual support levels and estimated support levels. A word of warning is that local authorities could still go back and reconcile the funding for the year with the potential for funding to be clawed back. We also saw savings across head office budgets, not so much due to the office staff working from home, as we still had to run and maintain the offices, but there were certainly savings in other areas as we were unable to undertake planned expenditure or had to do things a bit differently because of the restrictions. There were also delays in the recruitment of some head office based posts, resulting in further savings. We were also less able to push forward with planned investment for the year, for example, the replacement of the information management system. There was a similar position across housing budgets, as it was not possible to take forward planned maintenance for part of the year, resulting in underspends and an increased housing surplus. Again, however, this is expenditure which will be taken forward in future years. But there was also an element of business as usual during the year. There was a national 3.3% increase to support funded hourly rates from April 20, and we in turn were able to pass that on to staff with a 3.3% salary increase. We were also able to make additional one-off payments to staff, which were linked to the head office savings as a recognition from the board of the commitment from staff during a very difficult year. We also had unprecedented amounts of annual leave carried forward at the year-end date, with an associated accrual which is included in the expenditure for the year. Now that from financial performance for the year pulls through to the statement of financial position, which is the balance sheet. And there weren't a lot of fixed assets additions during the year, other than an investment in IT equipment, primarily to allow effective home working. There were minimal housing related fixed assets additions. In terms of working capital changes, both debtors and creditors had increased from the March 20 position, partly due to COVID and partly due to timing. And both Key and the group had increased cash balances during the year. As already mentioned, there is a significant increase to Key's net pension liability, and this has been reflected through the statement of financial position. This results in reductions in the closing reserves, with Key's closing reserves sitting at 15.4 million and the group's at 22.5 million. I therefore present these accounts for adoption.
Thank you very much, Alison. So could we invite a proposer and a seconder for the adoption of the accounts for the year to 31st March 2021? First of all, somebody who's prepared to propose.
I've got Paul Canup there. Thank you very much, Paul.
Well done, Paul. Thank you. And a seconder?
I've got
Rebecca's hand up.
Rebecca's hand up there.
Rebecca
That's
again.
Brilliant.
Great. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Okay, so the next item is the appointment of the auditor for the year ahead. The board is recommending the reappointment of Assets Audit Services Limited Chartered Accountants as the external auditor for the year to 31st March 2022. And could I have a proposer for that, please? Rebecca again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And somebody to second that?
I've got Kirsten. Oh, sorry, Kirsten. I've got James, who just got his hand up before you. James, is that okay? James, you seconding? Thank you.
Excellent,
James
very
Cox.
good. Okay, so now it's on to the election of board members. And I'm going to ask Andrea as secretary to tell us about the board members who are retiring and standing for re-election and any further nominations that we may have, Andrea.
Okay, thanks very much, John. So as you explained in your report, we've got two board members, Bill Mooney and Joanna Pearson, who are retiring but not standing for re-election, sadly. Can I add my huge thanks as well to both of them for everything they've contributed over the years and for their support to myself and my colleagues. We've got three further board members who are retiring but are standing for re-election, and these are Dave Lesage, David Meakin and Angus Turner. There were no other nominations received. So back to you, John.
Okay, so that means that as there are more board vacancies than members nominated, I can declare that those standing for re-election to the board are elected without a vote. And so could I have somebody to propose that's what we do about the members on the board?
And I have got James who is proposing that. James Cox.
Well done, James. And somebody to second?
Look, I've got Paul McCann for a second. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so that's the board in place for the next year. Okay, so it's now over to Andrea as in her role as Chief Executive rather than Secretary now, and Andrea's going to give you her Chief Executive's report. So Andrea, over to you.
Thanks very much. And can I just say again, it is brilliant to see so many of you being able to join us for this virtual meeting and supporting the AGM. As John has said, this past year has been one of significant challenge, with our whole organisational effort pretty much remaining focused on the COVID-19 pandemic and to keeping the people that we support safe and well. COVID certainly has tested us in ways that we couldn't imagine, but throughout it all, everyone connected to key and community lifestyles have shown courage and compassion and commitment every step of the way. Now, you've already heard a little bit from John about how the people we support have been keeping themselves active and engaged, and you'll hear more about that from Tag and Rebecca later on. The annual review will be available online, and you'll read more of those stories. And can I take the opportunity? I think Jan is actually at the AGM. I just want to thank Jan Murdoch for an incredibly uplifting and vibrant annual review this year of all years, when we needed to hear about the amazing things that people have been doing. And she's worked incredibly hard to reflect lots of the stories. I actually can never work out whether Jan's got the best job in the organisation because she gets to go out and about and meet people and hear their stories, or one of the most difficult because she has to deal with myself and a few others saying, could we not word that a little bit more like that? So thank you so much. It's a fantastic publication. I'm really looking forward to everyone being able to see it. So in my report today, I just want to reflect a little on the extraordinary efforts of our workforce, who for many months have worked tirelessly to respond to the challenges that we've been seeing day after day. And at last year's AGM, I spoke about their commitment, their dedication, without which we'd have been unable to respond to the crisis as it began. And I described how they were rising to the challenge during those first few months, and all about really their energy and their passion and their creativity. I could not have been, or at least I thought I could not have been, prouder of our exceptional workforce, who every day were very much guided by the principles and their values to do the very best they could under really difficult circumstances. But I also couldn't have predicted that 1 year on, COVID-19 would still be part of their daily lives. And although the restrictions are easing in recent months, life certainly hasn't returned to normal for anybody. So PPE, all of our equipment, vaccines, testing and self-isolation have become very much part, and still are, of people's everyday lives, as has navigating the incredibly complex and often very much changing guidance for both the housing and the social care sector. And yet our workforce have turned up day after day to support, care for, be with the people who needed them most, and that's been both inspiring and humbling. We're really very grateful for everything they've done. Our huge thanks also, though, go to the wider workforce, our staff at the Square, local admin teams, as well as everybody in TAG, who have just continued to support our services and staff in their efforts, often having to work mainly from home and finding different ways of providing their essential support. I know how challenging the last year has been, and the volume and complexity of work that people have been dealing with hasn't lessened, but neither has their empathy and understanding for what our colleagues are having to deal with. And I know how much that's meant to people and how thankful they are for that support. I think I've said this before, but the organisation's strengths very much are in our exceptional staff group, and we're very proud of each and every one of them. Our housing services continued to provide essential services throughout the pandemic as well, and you can read, as John said, about how some of our partnership work with other housing providers has continued through the pandemic and has very much benefited a lot of the existing people that we support, and the annual review will tell you a bit more about that. Our tenant satisfaction survey, which albeit was 2020, was again very positive, with 95.1% of people who responded being satisfied with our landlord services, and that is very much higher than the Scottish average of 88%. Also very positive has been the feedback about how we manage our neighbourhoods that we work in, with nearly 90% of people satisfied. And you'll be able to read a wee bit more about all of that and some of our community initiatives in the Charter report, which is due out later this year. So although we did things slightly differently last year, our core purpose of supporting people in their own homes and communities didn't change. Hopefully, we've become more digitally confident. And we certainly became more creative and innovative, but essentially Key continued to deliver really high quality housing and support services while successfully managing the issues and challenges that COVID brought. And we don't underestimate the toll that this has taken, and we've very much maintained our focus on staff wellbeing and support by checking in with people regularly and sharing opportunities and activities that promote and support good mental health. During April, we came together over a period of 2 weeks with around 200 of our managers and team leaders to reflect on the impact of COVID-19 and consider what else we could do to support people in the months to come. And during our discussions, people talked a lot about the loss and the grief that had marked the previous 12 months, both professionally and personally. But most of all, people shared stories about the togetherness that has helped everyone deal with such difficult times. Much of the support that the managers talked about comes from each other, and also from our very committed operational teams based at Kerr Street and the Square. But managers also talked a lot about the many acts of kindness that the people that we support had shown to their teams, their workers, and the incredible levels of good humour and optimism throughout the organisation. And you can see this through the annual review. As John said, each story reflects the resilience of the people we support and our staff, but also the human warmth and empathy between them. And that is exactly what Key has always believed social care is about: supportive relationships based on trust and dignity and mutual regard, and which empower people to live the lives that they choose and participate as active citizens. It's our kind of shared vision with the people that we support, and one that will continue to drive the things that we do and the way that we do things. Now, without doubt, in the past year, COVID has shone a very bright light on the social care support sector. It's staff and the people who, of all ages, who rely on support to live their lives. The workforce was recognised with and alongside the NHS, and public and media recognition has begun to reflect the very professional, skilled and incredibly complex role of a social care worker. The argument for similar pay and conditions with local government and the NHS has begun to grow, and most importantly, the people who rely on support, their voices became stronger, they became more visible, and their experiences made the case for changes to the way that we arrange social care more urgent. And as a result, amid an already extraordinary year, we got the independent review of adult social care, which was set up to look at the experiences of people who use and deliver social care support, and to make recommendations for improvements. Now, the review highlighted that social care is not all about care homes, and that most support is delivered to people in their own homes and communities, and that this support was very often of a high quality when it was delivered by organisations like Key, who are in the voluntary sector. But the report also calls for changes to be made to improve both the experience of people who receive and rely on support and those who deliver it. And these changes that are in the report are things that Key fully supports, some of them, and include having an approach that gives people who use support a stronger voice, gives people much more choice and control, and properly values and rewards the workforce. And great that we also saw that there was a drive to make sure that self-directed support became a reality for everybody. Now, delivering on these and other recommendations will require strong leadership, more money, and people to work together with trust and mutual respect for each other. And as the review moves into the implementation period, so when are we going to actually do these things, the Scottish Government are taking forward the establishment of a national care service. And over the next few months, we will really need to keep our focus on doing the right things in the right way. So we'll continue to contribute to the debate. We'll be supporting a person-centred human rights approach. We'll be working alongside TAG to make sure that the voices of the people that we support are front and centre of any decision making, and that the skills and the competence and the talent of our workforce is recognised and valued. Social care cannot and must not have a one-size-fits-all approach, and we have to be really ambitious about what it can achieve so that people have the right to full lives of their choice, surrounded by the people that are important to them. So a very busy year ahead of us, and I'm really looking forward to working with lots of people on this. So finally, can I share my own thanks to John and the board for their steady, calm and insightful support to the organisation and its staff throughout the year. Their leadership has been outstanding, shaping the things that we've done while keeping the safety and well-being of the people that we support and employ at the heart of every decision the board has made. Thank you so much. That concludes my report for this year, John, and it's back to you.
Thanks, Andrea. That was a really good roundup of everything that's been happening this year and a bit of a trailer for some of the things that are going to be happening over the next year as well. So thank you very, very much indeed. So it's now over to all the things that we like to hear about from TAG, and Rebecca O'Donnell, who, as I said, is the chairperson of TAG, has pre-recorded a report for us this year. So we're going to play that now, and then we're going to be seeing the video for the review of the year after we've watched Rebecca's own video.
Hello everyone. Well, I think it's fair to say that we've had another interesting year. Little did I think when I spoke to you last year that we'd still be talking about COVID. It is hard to believe that it has been 18 months since we've been able to hold TAG meetings. I think we've all missed being able to meet up together, but what has been great over the past few months is seeing some light of the end of the tunnel. You guys have been great of sending photos and stories of what you've been doing during lockdown. It has been brilliant seeing so many new people following us on Facebook and sharing ideas. You'll see some of the great pictures later, but a big thank you from all of us at TAG. You'll keep us going. Over the past 3 months, it has been great to start back to normal, back to do the things we enjoy doing. But this has been a rough road. Before Christmas last year, as we were going into another lockdown, the guys who knows the Glasgow Day Ops got in touch to say they were running out of things to do. Everything was closed, people couldn't travel far, and the weather was getting worse. We worked alongside them and managed to get hold of some iPads. The folks took up the challenge and became the Glasgow Rovers reporters. They decided on a project of photograph and a film. We had nature watch, tours of the 7 locks, and a brilliant collection of Christmas in Glasgow pitch. The film are able on TAG YouTube channel. I think you agree they've got a great eye for a good photo. The group of going to Kenya and have agreed to keep filming and recruit for the TAG website. Our Game Changers programme started last June. Starting in the middle of a pandemic wasn't ideal. Neil got to work with Cook Disability and Athletes to begin their quarter sessions. He has also organised online sports activities and sporting competitions. The uptaking has been brilliant. It was fantastic when online dance class was finally able to meet up in person. Once restrictions allowed, the group got followed beat of the Glasgow Green with another 50 people taking part online from across the rest of Scotland. Here you can see me showing how it's done. The other community development workers were delighted when they were able to get back out planning and plotted SDS in Rivershire, Stirling and Clarks. Claire and Dustin have been working with people to support them to think about different things they're doing during lockdown. What new things did they try and what would they like to continue doing and what things they want to change. Our work in Interclient continues. We worked with the HSCP to get people involved in redesign of their day service. After 7 years, we were sorry to say goodbye to Michael, who moved on to a new job in North Ayrshire. Michael was the first person to work for TAG as a charity. He has been a brilliant member of the team and we'll miss him. We wish him all the best for the future. We get through this, folks, so keep on going and promise. Here are some of the great pics people sent in. Keep your chin up and take care.
Brilliant, very, very good. Thank you very much, everybody. The review of the year is a very important opportunity for us to reflect on the lives of the people we support and the positive impact Key and TAG support can have. And our sincere thanks go to Rebecca and all those who helped to make it. Of course, we're aware of the impact that COVID has had across the world, in Scotland, in Glasgow, and within Key for the people who live in it and the people who work in it. And we echo absolutely Rebecca's sentiments that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We've done marvellously well in our communities and in our organisations working together to get through this, and we'll follow Rebecca's advice and keep on going. So it only leaves me to thank you all for attending or for acting as a proxy representative, and thanks to everyone who's helped organise today's meeting. We hope that next year we'll be seeing you all face to face. Very, very much hope next year we'll be seeing you face to face. And that concludes this year's AGM. So goodbye, good luck to all of you, and everybody keep safe. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.